Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Sagittarius, Sun, Moon or Ascendant. For Taurus season, for the month of May, whatever your paradigm is, I'm here for it. What's most important is that it's happening right now. So I hope you're well. I'm using the 777 tarot deck for you today. This is my Bulgarian deck. It's very good. I love it very much. So, so we're going to keep using it. Things to tell you before we begin: if the reading resonates with you and you would like to go a little bit deeper, there will be an extended that you can access at the end. Links for that are in the description box below. The link that takes you to Self-I will enable you to get the extended for one sign. If, however, you want a little bit more of what I do, you might consider coming over to my private community on the Circle platform. It's called the Order of the Phoenix, and there you can get access to all of the extended content for all of the signs. What else can you do? You can do loads of things. Oh, you have access to the weekly energy readings that I do every single week. They run between 45 to 60 minutes, depending on how intense the week is, every week. And you get the opportunity to come participate in the Deccan Walk if that is something that you would like to do. I don't think it's understating it to say it's turning out to be kind of life-changing, actually. And not just for me, for all the people who are involved in it. And if you join at the higher tier, you can come participate in the live classes that we run over there and have access to all the recordings of the past classes that we've done. So if that sounds like it might be of interest to you, you know what to do with that link. Right, let's have a little chat about what we're going to do here today, Sagittarius. As I have done for quite a few of the readings this year, I think at this point we need to focus on where we are right now, not what we see coming down the pike, not anything that is, out there somewhere, but like, where are we right now? Let's get a handle on that. I really do think it is the most important question you can ask yourself in 2026. And somewhat inspired by the Deccan Walk itself, in fact, and we're in Taurus 3 now. The readings this month have been oriented around initially the Five of Pentacles, right? Now, I talk about this card as representing either a lack or a fear of a lack, right? Poverty or fear of a poverty of any description. It doesn't have to be material. It can be emotional. It can be spiritual. It can be whatever, right? And I'm finding that in this round of readings, the question that we're asking ourselves is, if we stay on the trajectory that we're on, if nothing really fundamentally changes too much, where will we be in 5 years' time? And is that acceptable to us? Because if it's not, what we have here is an opportunity to start to reorient towards something else. Right? Remember, just a sliver of a degree off on your compass, and you will end up wildly off course a little way down the line. And I think that given that Taurus season is a lot about what resources we have at our disposal and what the fuck it is we're even trying to build, I think that these are really useful considerations at this time. So that's what we're going to look at for you. Is everything cool? Is everything great? Or is there somewhere that we can do a little bit of tweaking? And we'll finish out with the second most important question that you can ask yourself in 2026, and that is simply, what is the next step? We don't need to know anything other than what is the next step. No grand plans, no highfalutin anything. Simply, what do we do next? And then where are we? And then what do we do next, right? This is going to continue for the whole of 2026, because this is what that reorientation that I was talking about looks like. So I hope that that's acceptable to you. This is what I have. So where is Sagittarius right now, please? Interesting. It's interesting because it's something that came up in the meditation before I started your reading. Yeah, Four of Swords with the Nine of Swords. Chariot in reverse and the Two of Swords in reverse. So here, let me share with you what came up in the meditation. What was very clear to me, and sometimes I get words, sometimes I get an image, other times I get a feeling, and it's somewhat abstract, but this one was, you're pushing on the edge of something and you have to push a little harder, Sag. And I wasn't entirely sure whether that was a situation, whether that was a relationship issue, whatever. But looking at these cards on the table now, it feels like it's a deeply internal structural shift in the way that you think about things. Why do I say that? Well, we've got the Judgment card at the bottom of the deck, right? And there's no getting away from when the Judgment card shows up, what we have is change, right? Because this card represents rebirth of some sort. It's quite literally called rebirth in a lot of decks, right? Where we've got a kind of meaningful shove through to either the completion of a cycle or the initiation of a new one. I would say that the Judgment card, as you would expect, coming before the world in the tarot, is the necessary preconditions for the completion of a cycle. But we've got so many swords cards and a little bit of water here too. It feels like it is the structural framework that is getting a bit of an overhaul here. We might say an upgrade, but I don't really like those kind of digital words too much. And the thing is, I don't think that Sagittarians do too well with tethering down any part of themselves. It's not what they're supposed to do, right? You're supposed to push things to their logical extremes to work out where your specific capacities lie. See where your limits are so you can push out beyond them a little bit, right? Let's see what happens. There's a reason why it's always astonishing to me when I meet a Sagittarius who's over the age of 30. It's just simply because a lot of the things you do, if you were any other sign at all, would probably mean that you wouldn't get to 30, right? But somehow, whether it is that Jupiterian kind of overseeing luck and faith and trust in the universe playing those parts too. Nevertheless, where you are right now is pushing beyond what have been your previous limits here, particularly as it pertains to whatever structure your belief system is currently holding, whatever shape it actually is. It's changing and it's morphing. We've got the Nine of Swords here. Nines speak to me of how you manage your mind. And this is why, despite me saying I would never advocate for a Sagittarius to strap themselves down too much, we have to proceed with a little bit of caution. Because when everything is everywhere all at once, when chaos reigns and there is no structure anywhere, it's quite easy, I think, to lose perspective altogether. And the Nine of Swords says that it's a possibility if we are not careful. Now, the interesting thing about this Bulgarian deck that I'm using is that it somewhat flies in the face of certain conventions that I ascribe to most of the other decks that I have, not least in the orientation of the swords. Now, if you've been with me for a while, you will remember that I have said many times I've got this kind of arbitrary rule, and it isn't actually replicated across every deck that I own, but I own an absurd amount of decks, right? Where we have swords up being good and swords down being bad, like that, right? Swords up represents truth, integrity, high vibration stuff. Swords down represent lies and obfuscation and lack of direction, lack of true direction in terms of the things that are being communicated, right? But, in a way that kind of Bulgaria does. Anyway, we've got the swords oriented the other way around. In all of the court cards here and in the Ace of Swords, the swords are down rather than up, representing to me, I think, the way in which the truth flows. Now, there's something really interesting about you being a conduit for difficult truths at the moment. Because if the swords are pointing down, they're not pointing up to God, right? They're coming down into the earth. And whether you're a conduit or a funnel or whatever for that, we've got your belief structure, we've got the way that your mind works, and we've got the things that you say about that. And then we have this situation here where we've got a lot of swords that are down. Now, there's something about this Nine of Swords, which is less, this is a question of your perspective and you just have to shift it around, and more, yeah, everything is exactly as you think it is. And where that seems to be stifling movement. We've got this person reclining here, looking pretty weary, looking like he's contemplating all of the things that are bad and wrong and awful, right? We've got this guy in the Four of Swords, and he too is lying down, and he's trying to integrate all of this truth that he is aware of that is uncomfortable and yet is shaping his paradigm. But then we have the Chariot card showing up reversed. There's no movement here, right? No movement, no movement, no movement. And then we have the Two of Swords. Now, notice here, sword is down. We've got swords sticking out of her head here, right? But the way that we talk about the Two of Swords quite often is how there are truths that elude us. And quite often that's because of the screening that our brain has put in place, right? To shield us from uncomfortable truths that we don't want to know. And then we act like we don't know them. It's showing up in the reverse for you. And what's interesting about that is that now we have a sword up, but in this deck it means that it's bad. Bad, right? But we also have the revelation of things that we would rather not know. And so what we've got going on here is actually something that feels like it's rather rustily ground to a bit of a halt with you, Sagittarius. And it's screaming out for an upgrade. It's screaming out for an expansion in your paradigm, for you to be able to contemplate these things that are real and true and heavy to bear, and yet it is not retarding your movement. Because Sagittarius must move. You cannot keep still. I've known enough Sagittarians over the years. In fact, my partner once, I cracked some joke about him, like never ever sitting still. I've known this man for like 12 years now, right? Just doesn't do sitting still. And he looked at me like that, and he came over behind me, and he just put his arms around me and just held my arms, pinned them to my side. And he said, when I stand still, when I'm not moving, that's what it feels like to me. And I was like, ew, God, oh, you should definitely skitter around a little bit more then, right? You just do your thing, it's fine. So imagine my consternation to see so much stasis here, and particularly as it relates to the workings of your mind, your communication, the way that you process information, and even to some extent the way in which you understand yourself. Because the Chariot card is about that as a central premise, right? It's about balancing out the polarities. And the polarities quite often, when we're dealing with self-knowledge and self-worth and whatnot, is our light and our shadow, right? It's the things that we're really good at, the things that we really suck at, and how we feel about ourselves in between. The Chariot card, for me, often talks about shadow work, right? I think I'm the only person in the world who actually sees it that way, right? But it's abundantly clear to me. We have the conscious mind that is kind of directing everything, thinking that he's directing everything. And then we have where the actual power is coming from. It's not the conscious mind, it's the subconscious mind, right? And where the shadow's pulling one way and the conscious mind is pulling another, we don't have equilibrium, we don't have balance. We certainly don't have the degree of self-awareness that we should have at any given point, right? So for the Chariot to show up upside down, what's happening is there's something that is, there's a piece of the puzzle that we're kind of missing. Now, on the face of it, it looks like you have all of the information. Things are revealed, uncomfortable truths. You're trying to sit with them to find the right place with them in your head. But it's the effect of it kind of slowing you down and stopping you that I'm finding really troublesome. And what's weird is, although I use words like troubling and troublesome and all this kind of thing, this feels like the kind of uncomfortable spot that one finds oneself in before there's a big breakthrough. And the big breakthrough is the righting of the chariot, not just in terms of movement, but in terms of what you yourself are dealing with and how you're going to deal with it. Now, let me shift my drink out of the way and grab my clarifying deck here. Because I think I want to focus on the energy here of the chariot. It's the only major arcana card out of the 4 of them. It does represent where the pressure is. These minor arcana cards are speaking about your response to this, right? How you're trying to work through all of these things. So tell me about the chariot card. I've got a reversal. It is the Hierophant. And the 9 of Wands. And the 5 of Pentacles. Right. Excuse me. The Hierophant reversed is not actually a card that I would usually find you finding problematic, because the Hierophant is rigid. It is structured. It's insanely hierarchical. In fact, it stands for a lot of things as fixed earth. It's a Taurus card. That Sagittarius would be the rebelling counterpoint to, if you would. But the fact that it's coming up here with the 9 of Wands in reverse, a Sagittarian card in and of itself, and its moon in Sagittarius, means that there's a kind of, how can we put this, Sag? A psychic porosity that is going on at the moment. Maybe a kind of emotional swirling that is going on underneath that seems a little bit focused on, interestingly, the 5 of Pentacles, but I don't think from the perspective that I've been looking at it, right? So if you remember when I laid this out at the beginning, I said we were looking at what we were fearing, everything remaining the same in 5 years' time, 3 years' time, even 1 year's time. In May 2027, do you want to be where you are right now? So that we can begin to reorient, right? We can move in a slightly different way. Even if it is a fraction of a degree, it's going to make a difference further down the line. What you seem to be stuck on is what isn't. Not what you're afraid will not be at some point, but in the here and now, what isn't. And it seems to be digging around a little bit in your emotional space. And there's I wonder if there's a kind of, there's a kind of order that you seem to be craving right now that you don't appear to be able to create for yourself. Because to an external pair of eyes, it may well look that everything to do with Sagittarius is a big chaotic clusterfuck of something, right? But Sagittarius knows that that's not true. Why? Because ruled by self-belief, faith, trust in the universe, God, source, creator, but whatever it is, Sagittarius knows that they can let an arrow fly and they'll get there. They can do 57 side quests and never lose sight of where that arrow landed. So there is an internal order, even if it is not appreciable by other people. The thing is, I feel like that internal order is breaking down. And again, it comes back to this point that you're in a state of such discomfort. Something somewhere is going to have to change shortly. It's going to have to change in a hot minute. Why? Because the longer you stand here, the longer you lie here, maybe, the more suffocated you are feeling by your own internal state. Nobody moves out of their comfort zone willingly. Not really. Even you, Sagittarius, do not move out of your comfort zone willingly. You just have a different fucking metric for what is comfortable compared to a lot of other people. And you're always guided by that innate awareness of where the arrow is landed. You'll navigate your way to it. Might be today, might be tomorrow, might be in about 30 seconds time, depends on how you feel, right? But the internal order seems to have broken down, and you got feelings about that. Now, it could be that you are self-flagellating a little bit and going, I don't know why I can't motivate myself. I don't know why I can't move myself forward. I don't know why I can't do a fucking thing. I don't know why the weight of the world seems to be crushing me right now. You could be doing all of those things, or you could be chopping wood and carrying water. I think both of those are equally likely. But whether it's a sense of needing a new kind of order, or whether it's needing a few better boundaries than you currently have, I don't think kicking yourself around is necessarily the way to go, right? And maybe it's one of those things where you have a process. I got to kick myself around for a little bit, and then I pick myself up and tell myself stop being daft, and then I just get on with the thing and I go do the thing, right? That's entirely possible. But this Judgment card here is saying there's something actually considerably fucking bigger going on, and you can't see it. It's not obvious, but it is staging for a kind of internal transformation that is going to blow a lot of this shit out of the water, because it has to by necessity. Why? Because you can't keep still. Energetically, that is not something that is available to you. Neither would you want it to be. It would be incredibly fucking boring, right? So, if we understand where you are right now, let's have a look and see, trying to get a handle on what the actual issue is here. So we've got Aries energy right there, Queen of Wands. We have got the Six of Pentacles. And we've got the Ten of Swords with the Three of Cups at the bottom of the deck. Now, the Three of Cups is about emotional support networks, right? Those that you participate in, those, that you offer support within, and those for whom you get to drink the emotional support too. This is the card at the bottom of the deck. Maybe it is that you're not feeling particularly supported. Maybe you are feeling kind of isolated. And I mean, these cards at the top would certainly speak to that. But the expansion that I've been talking about isn't necessarily a comfortable one, because it's pushing you to the limits of your cognition, right? It's like the container that Sagittarius has all the information in is kind of at its done point, and now we need to move to something bigger, right? Like an animal that has outgrown its housing. It's now no longer something that represents safety to you, or even comfort to you. Why? Because you kind of having to push yourself into it, and it's not got space. Now, it would be lovely if we could move from the Nine of Swords to the Ace of Swords and circumvent this entire Ten of Swords moment, but a rebirth requires a death first, and the death seems to be of the way that the very small way, relatively speaking, that you are processing information, with the much more expansive way that is going to give you room to breathe energetically out of this space. Now, the energy of Aries here should be quite supportive for Sagittarius, right? It's a sister fire sign to you. But we've had an awful lot of it. Now, usually your tolerance for a lot is a lot, right? Sorry, the sun's moving around the side of the house. But I don't think that you would be alone in finding what has just happened in April as almost like a little bit too much. We had the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees Aries, and then in a blink of an eye, we also had a 7-planet stellium, and Chiron was part of that too, right? A wounded healer. And there's a clear sense that something got seeded there in that moment. Now, we would like to say, what got seeded was a brave new world and all that kind of thing, but it's going to take time for the consequences of what got seeded there to be truly understood. And I really do think we're talking about years at this point, right, for that. But all that seems to have really happened is it's accelerated your growth to the point that you don't fit in the fucking house anymore, as it were, right? In the animal house, whatever it is. And your previous paradigm, the previous way that you thought about things, the previous way that you communicated about things, all that sort of stuff, it's not big enough now. And we have to induce some sort of ending here to give you the space to expand even more. Oh. There's the Temperance card at the bottom of the deck there, underneath the Three of Cups. And it's interesting because we talk about the Temperance card as representing a need to fill your own cup. Now, we've got this mutual support network here where everybody's filling everybody else's cup, and that's great. But here's something quite interesting in this card, Sag. You'll notice that she is not able to fill her own cup. She's actually filling all of the cups around her, and then there's these hands at the side that are coming in and grabbing stuff. It's kind of like you've reached the limits of what you are and what you can do in this current state. You've got to evolve up to the next level now. And it's in your thinking, and it's in your doing, and it's also in your emotional space too. We've got all of the elements on the table here. We've got cups, we've got wands, we've got pentacles, we've got swords. There's an awful lot of sword stuff. There's a lot of overthinking. Maybe there is a kind of... I don't know. It feels like a lot of the energy has hit you in a way that you didn't anticipate. And now it's just difficult for you to show up in the same way that you always have done. The thing is, though, Sag, I feel like you've been stuck in your head about it. And whilst you would have preferred to have just done something about it to alleviate the tension, it's maybe that everything that you have tried to do actually hasn't done that at all. And so effectively we have a stasis where you're just tired and you're just working really hard and nothing seems to be changing anything. This Six of Pentacles then acts as the bridge between the increasing tension and effectively the discharge of the tension. The point where we hit the limits of the cognition, the point where we hit completion and ending, and we evolve into something else, something different. So what is this balancing force of the Six of Pentacles? We've got the King of Wands here. That's your king. It represents strictly the sign of Leo, but it's your king, and it's about what you do. It's not just about what you do, but it is about the pair of them together, why you do it. It's about how you do it. It's about what you're looking to achieve. It's about the time frame that you do it in. You know, the King of Pentacles, I think, is very, very patient. But he also represents the evolved stage of the Knight of Wands, which is your card right here. So he can bide his time and he strikes when the time is right. He doesn't waste energy. And to some extent, it feels like what I'm describing here as a comfort zone discomfort for you is actually like a cocoon stage here. We've kind of got to let that energy build. We've got to let that discomfort build, because you're getting ready to sort of ping off in a direction that was somewhat unexpected, but gives a lot of space for expansion. Now we've got the Six of Cups showing up there in reverse to clarify the Six of Pentacles. But we've also got the Tower in reverse. And that's really interesting because there's some aspect of this that suggests to me that you're trying not to go off half-cocked. You know, there is a place where there is tension within you, and probably situations specifically that are causing that tension. But it's almost like you're mindful of this. Mindful of the Temperance card, mindful of the Three of Cups. And so you're trying really hard not to be reactive, but the pressure is building. And while the pressure is building, you seem to have lost sight of where your arrow is supposed to go. Right? Any arrow that you've let fly doesn't seem to have landed anywhere yet. And so you're trying to resist the Tower, trying to keep everything on the level. But actually, the longer this goes on, the more imbalanced this is starting to feel to you. And it's almost like if the Six of Cups in reverse is an unwillingness to go backwards, and yet the Tower would represent the rupture that would see you moving forwards. It's like you're trying to hold this stasis for as long as possible because of the potential of consequence that may flow from something that happens very quickly. And I don't know if you've spotted potential consequences that perhaps you don't want to have to deal with, particularly in the arena of your relationships with other people. But there's only so long that this tension is going to be able to be held, Sagittarius, before something has to vent somewhere. The thing is, though, there's something about this that is quite literally changing the way that you see reality. And by extension, it's changing the way that you see yourself. There's a lot of suffering here, Sag. There's a lot of suffering. Let's have a look and see what the next step is. We'll have the Page of Pentacles. Sagittarius. King of Wands reversed. And the Three of Pentacles. With the Six of Wands at the bottom of the deck. Now, again, that's another Leo card, just like the King of Wands is. But it is Jupiter. It is the success. I think that there is a version of you that, were you in the situation that you're in right now, maybe you 5 years ago, 10 years ago, would have erupted already and already fucked off to do something else. I don't think I'm understating that or overstating that, right? And it's a representation of the extent to which you have matured and how you're kind of vibing from this wise place now, that you haven't ruptured everything. You haven't blown it all off and gone, ah, fuck this, I'm going to go do something else. Or blown it all up even. You're holding the tension. And some of you might be concerned that, yeah, I might be going just a little bit crackers. And I don't think that's the case, Sag. Because although it sounds like a lot of this is like, it's not. It's this propulsion forwards to the next stage, to the next level of something. I said, you're kind of trapped in a cocoon at the moment, and it's taking everything that you've fucking got to keep breathing through the stress of staying still. But what's developing, what is taking precedence is not, the old hedonism, the old, I'm going to stick around as long as it's fun, and as soon as it stops being fun, I'm going to go elsewhere. It's like recognizing that you have a part to play and so does everybody else. And everybody else may be moving at a slower rate than you, but actually maybe this is why you are having to hold still, right? Not only are you getting ready to burst out of the cocoon as something extraordinarily different, but you're actually giving other people an opportunity to catch up with you where you are. Because there's no way of looking at what's ahead of us down the road to say, well, I'm just going to do it myself, just going to look after myself, everything will be fine. Like, you know that we need each other. And as extraordinarily talented as you are, Sagittarius, you can't do everything yourself. There's got to be ways to share the load. There's got to be ways to work together with people. And some people have, skill sets that you don't. And maybe that might be part of the issue, but it's sharing the load. The thing is, I think the reason why you feel like none of the arrows have landed, or even that they might have landed, but you don't, for the first time in a long time, you don't actually know where they are. And there's something quite discombobulating about that, is that it almost feels like a pressure on my chest as I'm looking at this, right? And I used this example with somebody else, and I forget who it was, which sign it was. But it's like taking a ball that's been, that's really well blown up. It's really goodly inflated. What the fuck? Really well inflated, right? And then getting in a pool with it and trying to hold it down. All right, you can do it for a while. You can hold it down for a while, but after a bit, when your arms get tired and you let go of that ball, it doesn't just rocket through the water. It actually rockets up out of the water. It erupts, and then it lands on the surface and it floats. Now, I don't know how this analogy works for you, Sagittarius. I hope you're kind of following what I'm talking about here, but like this feels like the point before what's holding everything back gets so tired it can't do it anymore. And you go from ultimate feeling of repression and suppression to immediate fucking breathing room again. Now, I don't know if this is around you, this is people around you, or whether this is something a little bit more like, world events or whatever. But there's a huge fucking change here. What about this King of Wands? Why is he reversed? We've got the Devil. Wow, the Devil makes work for idle hands, right? Ace of Pentacles, Eight of Swords, Four of Wands, Ace of Swords, Page of Wands. There's a lot of contradictory energy here that you're being asked to hold in tension. And for what reason, you don't know. Now, you could feel like you don't really have any choice in the matter. You do. You could literally blow all of this up, go fuck this shit, and just be out of there. But there's something that's telling you that that's not the right way to go. So you just got to hold it. And what's extraordinary is the level of stamina that you are developing in being able to hold this tension. But it's coming very, very close to being relieved. Nine of Cups. You just got to find ways to keep yourself busy for now. That's it, Sag. Maybe you might have to just bite your knuckles every now and again and just breathe, deeply, and then just go, okay. Even if you are stuck in your head, doing something with your hands is a good idea. It gives you the feeling of doing something even if you're not yet feeling around for where that arrow is. Do something. Doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how mundane it is. Maybe a good time, if you don't have anything super meaningful to do with your time, maybe now is the time to do a good spring clean on the house. I clean out the barn, clean out the attic, do something. Keep your hands busy for now. And trust that this too shall pass, but it is creating what you need to move forwards, whilst not obliterating the people that you need to move forwards, right? It's not even just about people, right? There's something here that you will be working towards, and you do need other people to do that. And maybe that's just a functional community, right? The growth coming here is from personal restraint and self-discipline. The reasons for it will become clear very, very soon. In the meantime, you just got to, as much as possible, keep yourself on a level until whatever's holding you down, which is your own brain, at this point, lets go. And then you can go back being your buoyant self. There's no difference in your usual buoyancy, actually. It's just that something's holding you down with some force at the moment. And like I said, I think it's your belief systems. I think it's your mental structures. And I think these are going to get overhauled really soon. Really soon. So, I'm going to leave it here. If I'm going to go and do the extended, actually. So if you would like to join me over there, you're very welcome to do so. You can do that on Selfie. You can do that on Circle. I'd be delighted to see you in either place. Otherwise, one foot in front of the other, Sag. It's all going to change very, very soon. So, know that I love you all very, very much. And I'll see you soon.